Welcome back to SWAYAM course on Design Thinking and Innovation. This is week 12. We are going to look at a very beautiful case study, a detailed case study of how a storage unit was developed to mainly look at post-harvest vegetables that normally go waste. So, how you can actually make them not go waste. Okay, so let's begin. It is section C12, week 12. I am presenting this case study. It is done by a Master of Design, Industrial Design student Arun Prakash and mentored by Professor Avinash Shinde, both at IDC School of Design at IIT Bombay. The name of the project is designing of storage unit for post-harvest vegetables. So, it is a waste management container along with cooling, because when you need to transport vegetables, the way you can actually reduce the losses is by actually integrating a cooler to it. Okay. But this project is very interesting because the kind of details to which the designer went to make sure his solution is appropriate and makes use of all the things which are available to him. Okay. This is the title of the project, Storage Solution to Reduce Post-Harvest Losses of Vegetables. Okay. So, it has gone through the design thinking process. Okay, so that is the introduction to the project. Okay, first phase is of course the initial research and collection of data, the existing data as well as field studies. That is the next part of it. Okay, and the key inferences from this field study, followed by reframing the problem statement, which we called as design brief here. Then comes the ideation phase, okay, and along with ideation mock-ups are done, okay, and that gives to concepts, and you need to analyze this concept and finally do the final prototype. So, this is the, if you can look at it, that is the design process followed in this particular project. Okay. A timeline was also done. It was a 6 months long project starting from January to July, and you can see that the design phases are mapped onto it. If you look at the second one, the research and data collection, it goes on almost till the end, because if you think of something, you have to go back to the field to test it out, right. Okay. The inferences and field studies followed by design brief, then ideation phase and the concept phase, and then the final prototyping phase. Okay. So, introduction, if you look at it, there is a declining demand for cereals and pulses and increase in demand for high value horticulture and livestock products with rising incomes, urbanization and all that. Okay. So, even if the demand has increased, there are heavy losses because of transportation, okay, handling methods, lack of storage places, lot of factors which lead to this. Okay. So, if you look at it, okay, there is a big percentage of waste of these. If you look at the graphs here, annually 18% of the vegetables are wasted due to the lack of proper organized system and products to handle it. So, it looks like there is a problem with storage, there is a problem with transportation, there is also a problem with how to transport it. Okay. So, if you look at it, it's actually the figures are very high. It's almost 63,000 crores that at loss here. Okay. So, it's a great opportunity to do something in this field. Okay. So, intervention is required. Okay. And so, is there an adaptive storage method that can actually mitigate some of these issues? Okay. So, that is the bigger broader picture here. Okay, so again, you need to look at all the choices of vegetables. Okay, in the market, you have a very large variety in India, and we also have a soft corner for fresh vegetables. Okay, that's also an issue here. Each one has a different shelf life. Okay, some perish very fast, some can be preserved for a slightly longer time. Okay, so it depends on the vegetable. Okay, and a combination of factors which make them actually last for a long time. Okay, so if you look at the stakeholders, again, it's a very large system, agriculture. Okay, stakeholders from the farmers to the first person, that's the wholesaler, to the laborers who are employed here, to finally to the shop where it gets sold. Okay, there are lots of governmental policies which define the whole system. Okay, there's also the in between contractor, okay, and finally the consumer. If you look at it, it's a very large number of stakeholders are there. Okay, so there are 7 of them listed here. Okay, and you can actually do user studies with each one of them. Okay, so user studies were done with here, for example, Karthik, who is a farmer, okay, who sells to the local market. Okay, and he's got a medium size harvest. Okay, Surya Prakash, again a farmer. Okay, so he directly sells it to the farmers market. Okay, again he's got a small size harvest land. Okay, so taking different, Venkateshan again here, he's a large farmer. Okay, so he exports it to the big markets. Okay, Manikam, okay, who's a wholesaler. Okay, he's got the second big shop in the largest market in India. Okay, so there were user studies done with different stakeholders to understand the problem space itself, right. Okay, and if you look at it, okay, vegetable study, so different vegetables were studied to see what is the shelf life, okay, what are the present containers are used, okay, and what are the probable reasons they go bad very fast, okay, what is the preservation method presently used. Okay, and what is the reason for wastage? Okay, so these were the many factors which were studied for each and every vegetable. Okay, so it was quite a deep study. You can see it here. Okay, so you can see that plastic containers are used, sometimes bags are used, sometimes bamboo basket is used, sometimes they just pile it up. Okay, preserving method, keeping it dry and under shade as much as possible. Okay, reasons for wastages. If there is moisture or some water and also insects get in there. Okay. A lot of times transportation handling itself damages it, okay, and the vegetables start looking bad. So, there is a visual rejection of it. Okay. So, different methods were studied, okay, different vegetables were studied. It was a detailed study from what you can see here. Okay. So, again some more studies on that. Okay, you can see different methods of actually trying to store it. Okay. And then if you look at the marketing channels, they are actually different for different regions and different vegetables also. Okay. So, you have the farmer here, is there a storage place? Sometimes there is, sometimes it is not there, sometimes there is a middleman and then or the shop and then it goes to the consumer. Sometimes the farmer itself sells it to the marketplace and the consumer buys it from there. Sometimes there is a middleman in the third case and he goes and stores it and then he distributes it to shops and then the consumer goes there. So, there are different methods in which the vegetables are transported from the farmland to the shop and finally to the consumer itself. There was also a study done to identify the kind of losses. It is different for different vegetables because some can last long, some are also more sturdy. Okay, so, you can see that the red one denotes the losses. Okay, it is different for different vegetables. Okay. It shows the minimum to maximum loss occurs at the different stage of the channel of each vegetable. the physical losses, weight loss and discards were appraised at varied stages of the movement of the vegetable from the farmland to the market. Each stage was a measure where the change in custody occurred and product entered the next step in the post harvest journey to the market. Okay, so it was a kind of detailed study of this, okay, and points where loss of vegetables were identified. For example, the at the farm what happens, okay, what happens at the primary wholesale place, okay, what happens at the marketplace, and finally at the shop level. Okay, so each one, okay, brings it into a bigger picture of the loss identification. Okay, and if you looked at storage containers, they came in all kinds of sizes, okay, from plastic mesh which is used to make sacks to coir material which are made like gunny sacks. Okay, bamboos used to keep it, plastic is also used, sometimes corrugated board is used. Okay, sometimes the bamboo is reinforced, okay, and also thin plastic bags, plastic racks, they are also very commonly used in different stages of the transportation. Okay, posture is also a very important factor. How do people actually carry it? Okay, one of the most common things that you see in India is it's carried over the head. It's also carried at the back. Okay, and the customer goes with a bag and buys it and carries it home. So let's look at the key inferences from this study. The first is there was a preference for rucksacks over plastic trays, mainly due to the cost considerations. Also cold storage, especially for short periods, was not preferred, and there was no organized supply chain, which leads to lots of inefficient losses. Wastage of vegetables due to transportation and handling is almost equal to the wastage due to its perishable nature. Okay, so I think something has to be done in its journey from the farmland to the market. Wastage of vegetables almost becomes nil. More it is distributed at multiple stakeholding places. That means that if you have multiple distribution points in the journey of the vegetables, that's better. Okay, so there are many factors. People are used to the concept that it is necessary for some quantity of vegetables to get damaged when transportation happens. This is a mindset. Okay, so these were the key inferences from both the primary study as well as the secondary study in the field. Okay, and came to what is the scope and limitations of this project. If you look at the scope, there were a lot of interventions one could do to actually preserve the vegetables. Limitations, because you still have to go with the existing system, that is the limitation. Okay, so with that it was the design brief was done again. So this is like actually reframing the question again. It was to design a storage solution to reduce post harvest loss due to handling and transportation, which will be used till wholesale point with size adaptability, cooling enhanced and easy to handle. Okay, so if you look at it, it's while transportation can we actually reduce the cost, okay, from the farmland to the wholesale market. Okay, can you actually make a container which adapts to different sizes? Okay, can you actually have cooling incorporated into it? And also it's kind of easy to handle it. Okay, so the objective was space adaptable nature according to the scenarios, efficient airflow and cooling effect, reduce mechanical loss, physical loss and psychological loss of vegetables in every scenario, user-centric stakeholder approach, should evoke desirability for effective reach of the product, okay, should be sustainable and long lasting. Okay, so these are objectives of why the design was done. Okay, so get this design brief. There were certain steps which were necessary at each stage of the transportation process. Okay. So, they were well defined here, and then mind map of the whole situation was done to look at all the details which can make a big difference to the design problem itself. Okay. So, there are many directions in which you can go, right. This is the ideation phase. Okay. Direction 1, you make it out of containers, okay, to replace the existing ones, okay, and they should be adaptable, and they are also stackable, you can see it. Okay. Design direction 2, system level organized solution, which involves the government to intervene. Okay. So, there is an orderly distribution and making sure that no wastage happens. Okay. Very tough to implement this system. It can be done in the long run. Okay. An additional attachment like product for the most used existing storage containers. So, there is an additional thing which makes the storage containers independent by itself. If you look at this, if you stack vegetables one on top of another, the vegetables at the bottom get all the weight of the top of the vegetables. Okay. So, there is a very large chance that the last few containers, the vegetable will actually go bad, especially during transportation. So, if you have in between breakers, so that each bag is not actually resting on another one, but it is resting on a hard surface, that solves quite a bit of the problem. So, these are all different directions one is actually looking at. See here, actually it is a mixture of things. It is an improved version of the reinforced bamboo basket, serves as a structural support. So, because that is the surface which is rigid. Okay. So, whatever is put inside there will remain, if it is not too big, will remain proper. Okay. So, if it is a tough vegetable, in the sense it can't get easily squashed, you can stack a lot of them. But if it is like tomatoes, which can easily get squashed, you need to put a few of them in the container. So, variable containers were one of the solutions. Also, the way one actually moves around. So, it has to be lightweight, repairable, also it should be space saving. That means you should be able to stack it, one next to another. Okay. So, these are all the ideations coming in. These are small containers which go into another. So, it is easy to handle it. Okay. When it is not actually being used, it occupies less space. Okay. There is a weak middle part here, it has to be sorted out. So, this is a very interesting, it has got containers one on top of another, but it can be squashed into a smaller container, medium container, and a large container. Okay. So, that was one of the ideas. Okay. Here actually big storage, okay, it is a sturdy one, okay, but it occupies a lot of space when not in use. Okay. And then so transportation is also very important thing. How do we solve it? So, how actually you can actually get the air while the vehicle is moving into the system itself, right. So, it is an idea, how do we actually make it go within the vegetables to cool the system itself. Okay. Either you can have one like this, and it continuously do it, or you can have it in many places, right. These are all the different options. Okay. So, once you have so many ideas, they were all evaluated against one another, okay, against stackability. These are all the important features that is essential for the solution, the posture of it while carrying it, how do you balance it, does it save space when not in use, can you adjust it, how is it easy to handle it, okay, is it something that you desire, and what is the strength of it. Okay. So, these were very good. So, from this it looked like this concept of the one which can get squashed down and it can come in 3 sizes was the chosen subject, and then you can do variations of this, right, in many ways. You can twist it to make it big, okay, or you could have something like cylinders one into another, Okay. So, again, now that you've chosen your idea, there are many variations that you can do. These are like bellows, okay, which can increase in length and decrease in length. Okay. Also, this structure, okay, is again very interesting because you can actually squash it and enlarge it. Okay. And finally, it came to the concept 6, where it was made out of 3 parts. Okay. And blinds were something very interesting because blinds can actually expand and contract, right. So, if I can actually make use of the principle of the blind, in the middle it can become a smaller container and a larger container. Okay. So, now it means that this was kind of the final concept. How do I actually finalize it? You can see it, they are in different sizes. So, it can go into one another. So, it can become extremely small, like the one in the bottom, and it can become mid size and it can become large. Okay. So, it had 3 sizes to offer. Okay. And you can see further details here, okay, mock-ups being done. So, you can try it out. Okay. So, these were all the trial mock-up tests which were done. Okay. And then small variations in terms of proportions, are there advantages. So, you try out many and then choose one. What happens when one carries it? Does it bend while carrying it? How do you hold it? Do you hold it from the top, or do you have a strap, or do you hold it from your head? Okay. So, these are all handling questions that needs to be answered, okay, and details of this. Okay. If you want to do something to hold it, does it have a handle? How do you integrate the handle into the product? And that is how the final product called as Flexi Crate came into being. And you can see that it's got a lot of details. The middle part is flexible. It can actually become small and big as you need it. Okay. So, then it comes to doing the details of that. Okay. How do you actually do the final details of this? Okay. So, everything, for example, if you have to put one next to another, what kind of details do you use to make it happen? So, one was taking inspiration from blind details. Can you actually put it into being here? And if it has to support each other, there has to be slight difference between the bottom and the top one. No? So, what is the detail which goes into that? Okay. And how do you clip the 2 sides together? What kind of clipping you need to do there? Okay. So, these are the corner details. Okay. How do you make it rigid? Because the load from the top should not transfer to the bottom, right. So, you need a rigid structure in between. How do you actually place it? Okay. So, what kind of partition it should be, what mechanism do I need to use here? Okay. And you can look at it if it's tomato, if it's potato, if it's brinjal, if it's leafy vegetables, if it's bottle gourd. Okay. So, there are many ways that you can actually stack the vegetables inside this, right. And yeah, the grill holes also, because it was very important to provide these holes, because this is through the holes that the cooling actually happens, right. So, it is important to decide which is the best possible variation, because it should also be strong as well as allow ventilation into the. So, models were done with different materials here, tested it out. Okay, drawings were done. These are the digital, examples of it. Now, you have 3 sizes. One which can take 30 kgs, the middle one which can take 50 kgs, and the large one which can take 80 kgs. Okay, and the middle portion is flexible, right. So, when one carries it, it takes the contours of the bag. Okay, force analysis was done through a CAD program to find out how much. So, if it was 80, they said at least it should not break, it should hold against 3 times its value. So, 240 kgs it is meant to do that. Okay. And then we make use of human factors and ergonomics, because finally it has to suit the human capabilities, his dimensions. Okay. So, it should be suitable, and especially it has to be the Indian human dimensions, right. So, we do get anthropometric details of this. Okay, so the final solution is done to make sure that it goes into these dimensions and the dimensions are frozen here. Okay, now we come to the stage where this has to be transported. Okay, so what are the different cooling mechanisms? Okay, best is to have a place in the on top of the truck which actually gets in the air, sucks in the air, but then it has to go through some channels. Okay, so it gets distributed. So what ways you can do it? There are multiple ways you can probably do the cooling. Okay, so again doing first doing the sketches and then doing the details with digital. Okay, so again another way to actually conceive of the cooling option and then have this capture the air and then it distribute it. Okay, so you can see how it is mapped onto the truck itself. Okay, and then cooling analysis was done. If all the vegetables have to be cooled, how you can do that, and finally a system scenario of how the product is used. Okay, so you can see that that's the farmland and you have the person come here, put the vegetables into the storage unit. Okay, and if there are more vegetables, then you can actually extend it, and that's how he actually carries it to the truck, and then it's stacked on the truck and the truck carries it to the marketplace. So you have to make a lot of material choices, right, because it's very, very important, because it should not get wet during the rainy season. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so different choices were done. Okay, so sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's heavy rains. Okay, there's air pollution. Okay, so the material should not react to all this. It should also be food grade and high strength requirements. So polythene for plastic for both container and cooler. Material for the rope is chosen is a nylon rope, since it's high tensile strength and has it has also can handle harsh situations. Stainless sheets are used for the covers. Okay, and the rest is covered with tarpaulin. Okay, so these are still not many of them are sustainable materials, but I think it will be replaced whenever the sustainable materials become available, and that's an option that to look forward to. Okay, so that's the storage unit for post harvest vegetables. Done with a lot of thinking, but also done with a lot of variations, and you can see that how actually prototyping at every stage in different ways has gone on to coming out with a really innovative solution. And because of its ability to cool itself and stack itself without actually putting the weight on the vegetables at the bottom, it's a viable solution. So again, done by Arun Prakash, MDes student, and mentored by Professor Avinash Shinde at IDC School of Design at IIT Bombay. Again, thanks so much for listening. This is section C12, week 12. So let's summarize. Okay, so if you looked at it, okay, week 12 had minimum viable product, proof of concept. We also did information architecture, especially for digital environments. We also looked at the concept of experience design. We just introduced these in the tools, and then you need to apply some of these in the project that you're doing. And we just had a look at this wonderful case study, a very detailed case study, a lot of thought given to different aspects of design. Okay, very nice primary and secondary research converted into a reframed question, and then slowly came out with different ideas, and then zeroed on one idea, which was a very flexible storage unit which can also be cooled. Okay, so that was week 12. Week 13 we will go ahead, okay, because it's an extension of the week 12. Okay, we look at some very important things. I think we just touched upon human factors there. So we'll introduce human factors and ergonomics in week 13. Also, because once you think of the system, can you actually make an overall mapping of it? Also, how do you do high fidelity prototyping? There are 3D modeling and printing techniques now available, okay, details of it in the tools, and then if you are doing the project right, you need to apply it here, and followed by again a beautiful case study design of a bamboo sliver furniture. You know, it's the lounge furniture where one can relax, but again done with a lot of care and you know, innovation. Okay, so thanks a lot for listening.